Hey, Paulina.
Hey, Lars.
Friday morning, and we are back at the, I would say, in the studio.
Yes. Finally.
Finally again, and I just came back from doing my Friday morning spinning class. So I'm all sweaty
You're
and ready to
pumped.
go.
You're crazy, Lars. I also saw a picture of you on Instagram yesterday doing burpees. Didn't you just have what? How do you? What does your shoulder say about that?
I didn't do the burpees, to be honest. It was I'm teaching CrossFit classes, and there was this guy who has a birthday, and it's kind of like the norm that you do birthday burpees. So he turned
Mhm.
52, so everybody had to do 52 burpees. My shoulder is not ready for it yet. I've done some burpees, but it's not ready for it yet. But it's coming in slowly.
That's incredible. I mean, how long ago is it? Was it 6 weeks ago? 7 weeks?
Now, I was at a physio last week, and he said 11, week 11.
Oh, week 11.
Week 11, yes, we are at week 11, but he estimated that I am at week 20 in terms of recovery.
That's
So
impressive.
it's going pretty well. I've started rowing. I'm starting like biking. I do like a little bit push-ups on my knees, but I have to be careful. But I do
Okay.
shoulder presses now, like with light weights. But it's coming.
I just keep shaking my head because I'm like, this dude, 11 weeks post surgery, is still exercising more than most of us are doing when they're fully healthy. At least, I mean, I've been
Hey,
to the
there's
gym on
no
Tuesday. I'm
excuse.
going to the gym today. So at least I'm hitting the gym twice a week. But you, boy, oh boy, you are addicted to, to exercise.
Hey, I go every day. I have to go every day. It's for me. It is
Happy
my
place.
getaway. This is where I stress off. This is where I close down. This is where I don't
And
check my phone and just sweat it all out.
I mean, I'm not judging. There are definitely worse things to be addicted to than to exercise. And so cool that you have that. Definitely.
Okay, we are gonna continue last week's episode.
Yes, exactly. We had it easy today. We didn't have to, no
Yeah, so
further research today.
everybody tuning in today, like we have to say like please pause now and go back and listen to episode 44. That's gonna be 44 because that is gonna be part one of what we're gonna talk about today.
Yes,
Paulina, are you ready?
I'm always ready.
Okay, let's do this. Hello, everybody, and welcome to
Cultures from Hell.
I'm your host, Lars, and today we're continuing talking about what really happens to culture during a downturn. And like last time, we're not going to give you the LinkedIn version. We're going to give you the real version. And as always, I am joined by my beautiful and wonderful co-host, Paulina, co-founder of Culture Code Foundation. And she is going to join me today to unpack how economic pressure reshapes leadership behavior and how to prevent long-term cultural damage. Let's do this, Paulina.
Absolutely. Let's go.
Okay, so we're just going to pick up where we left off last week. And the first question is going to be if in a company revenue that they drops like, let's say 30%, what should leaders protect first? What is the first thing that should be on their mind?
So is this a sarcastic question now, or is that a real question? Because that
Maybe a little bit
definitely
sarcastic.
no, I've got to answer it on the on the real side, because what we tend to protect, that would be my sarcastic answer, what we tend to protect is positivity, right? Nothing's wrong and we're going to solve all of that, la 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 la. And you and I, we are both huge haters of toxic positivity because and I'm convinced of it, everybody can sense that it's BS. And therefore, my real answer is protect clarity, not the fake optimism, not the toxic positivity, not any morale theater, always clarity. So good downturn communication could sound like, we currently have 9 months of runway and we're modeling 3 different scenarios. Layoffs are a last resort for us. And here's what needs to happen to avoid them. And also, we will update you every 2 weeks on where we're standing. And please, 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 when communicating this, if you're saying layoffs are a last resort, don't add anything like, because we are a family, because nobody believes that anymore anyway. So don't go down that road, right? But if you communicate in this way, you create a lot of agency for people. And they will know where they stand. They will know how they can impact the situation. And most importantly, they will know that you have a plan, that you have an idea, an inkling of how to get out of this situation. And that you're taking, as a leader and manager, you're taking over responsibility for your part into this, because not every economic downturn in a company is due to just some market breakdown, yeah. But more often than not, is also due, or entirely due, to mismanagement. So, and it's so often framed as topics or problems from the employees, like they were not performing, or they were not working hard enough, or la 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 la. But if you have a few people who are not working hard enough, then either you have a management problem because you're not coaching them correctly or not motivating them correctly, or the single person's performance simply can't have that kind of impact on the overall business outcomes, right? So it has, and at the end of the day, it is always management's responsibility. So own that responsibility, show up for your people, and be clear about what's going on, right? And I've also seen amazing creativity around this kind of situation, right? So one company that I worked for years ago, they, during the 2008 downturn, they actually asked the entire workforce to temporarily reduce their salary across the board to protect jobs and to make sure that nobody needed to be let go of, right? And it was a small team and people trusted each other very, very much. And the CEO was the first one to cut his own salary, and he cut his salary more than anyone else on the company. So there was full transparency. There was open books. There was a clear timeline as to how long you have to reduce your salary. And it was clear, okay, we're protecting each other here if we're doing this. And as a result, the loyalty in the company skyrocketed. And the crucial part here was that every manager and the CEO cut their own salary by more than the rest, right? So because they role modeled it, they walked the talk. And I guess I want to showcase that people can handle bad news. They can handle tough situations. They cannot handle being lied to or feeling betrayed in such a situation. And I also want to be very clear that layoffs don't automatically improve performance. Actually, I know that oftentimes the opposite is the case. because if you don't communicate clearly, you have this anxiety thing that's going on. And we've talked about this over and over again in our evolutionary brains. If we are in anxiety mode, we cannot perform at our best. So you will probably not see skyrocketed performance. You might see skyrocketing input or busyness, but you might not necessarily see actual performance in terms of outcome, right? And there are multiple meta-analyses from research companies that show that severance costs, lost institutional knowledge, rehiring costs after the downturn comes back up, and the reduced morale and the reduced engagement completely cancel out any short-term savings that you might be having by letting people go. And we discussed this in more detail last week as well. So boards need to understand that cutting muscle to look lean is not a strategy to help a company survive. Unfortunately, I'm also very aware. Sorry?
No,
I just wanted
to continue, please.
I just wanted to finish the thought that unfortunately, if you have a VC fund in the background as your financing, then there is a high likelihood that they are still going to want to cut the short-term costs. But that's also the reality of our world we live in. But ideally, you would think about longer-term strategies rather than a knee-jerk reaction in this kind of situation.
And now we have talked about like leaders, and you talked about like a lot about top leaders. What about middle managers? Like, where do they fit in? What's their role or part in this?
They are actually crucial, especially, I mean, they are usually crucial already, but they become especially crucial in downturn situations because they are always shock absorbers in the entire lifespan of any business, right? So they either amplify fear or stabilize it. So, and they are always under a lot of pressure. So they need to be equipped with both language on how they can communicate in such a situation, but also on how to deal with their own pressure and actually function as pressure filters. Because the worst thing I've seen is middle managers panicking because they get so much pressure from the top management and they don't have the tools and the experience to process the pressure for themselves before they go into talking to their teams. And I'm not talking about lying to them or anything, right? But I'm talking about helping them to add context to upper management communication. I'm talking about stripping away the things that people don't necessarily need to know because it might heighten their anxiety. And again, we just talked about the anxiety effects on performance. So middle managers need the equipment in terms of a clear narrative, the permission to show humanity. They also need the agency to be involved in decisions, right? So the worst thing I've seen is middle managers being called into a room and learning, okay, we're going to fire 5 of your people in your team today, and we're going to fire those 5 people. If you need to let go of people, involve the managers who are responsible for them in the decision making, not just in a top-down, clear-cut communication. And also allow middle managers to create structured forums to vent. We've talked about my Hulk meetings, right, that I love. And they can be such an incredible tool here because they are controlled emotional release plus solution focus all rolled up in one. And it is so rare that managers actually create this kind of forum. I mean, we all see Q&A town halls where the CEO and the other C-level try to answer questions that they don't have any answers to. And everyone leaves with a feeling of either they BS'd us or they have no effing idea how to solve the situation, or they didn't even think about the impact things are going to have, right? We all know those kind of horrible events that are actually just, you were better off not doing them than doing them in a bad way. And usually the trust within a team can be increased tenfold if the middle managers have the leeway to help people release all of this negative emotion, because surprise, it's gonna be there anyway, no matter if you give them space to release it, right? Yeah, so all of that, and then obviously ideally also give the same room to middle managers, right? Not just for them to help their own team, but because they are in this sandwich position and get pressure from below and upward, it can be incredibly worthwhile. And unfortunately, I've almost never seen this in my career, that the C-level offers this kind of forum for middle managers where they can vent, where they can process their anxiety, their fears, their concerns in a real way, not just this guarded way where you think, okay, if I show fear now as a middle manager, or if I'm not fully on board, then this might actually hinder my career, kind of way. So obviously this requires a high level of trust already that you need to create ideally over a longer period of time, because you will find it very hard to create trust in such a situation if you haven't had a good basis for it beforehand already. Well, and just to summarize this long monologue on if you don't do the things, or at least some of the things that I've described, middle managers will default to self-protection. And this is not the place where you want them in order to help the business steer through any downturn.
And we talked about this, I would say, in several episodes, like the importance of middle managers, because like you're saying, they're put in this sandwich position between the C-level and let's call it the ground floor, right? Mm-hmm. And they're often the ones who has like their finger on the pulse and know what's actually going on and so on. And I would say that for me, in the companies that I've tried to be in where we had like difficult times, you see that the C-level try to communicate straight to the ground floor and kind of skipping that middle managers.
Yes.
Instead of like you're saying, like taking them in. Oh, sorry, I have a cat that needs to go out. 2 seconds. Here we go. The beautiful life of doing a home studio. No, but they tend to like skip those middle managers instead of like using them, because the middle managers is often the ones that actually knows what's going on, right?
Exactly. Absolutely, 100%.
So utilize them instead of just skipping them, because again, like I tried it, I think 2 times in my career, like where like it was like really, really bad. And like you're saying, the solution seems to be town hall meetings, right?
Yeah.
Where you have the C-level coming in, I have the stars on the shoulders, and they just keep communicating straight to the ground floor, to which they have no connection at all.
And don't get me wrong, those town halls it's a good thing for C-level to show up and show ownership and also show responsibility and a plan, right? So I'm completely on board with that if it's done in a good way. But both things can be true at the same time, right? So you can, first of all, involve the middle managers in the decision-making. I know this might prolong the decision-making. I also know it might seem dangerous because more people know about plans before they are being executed. And if you, as a C-level, are thinking, okay, I just need to make a decision, I need to get this over with, and obviously for most C-levels, this is also not a nice situation. They are also under a lot of pressure. They also dread going through it, and most likely they just want to get it over with so that they are done with it. But if, and I think this holds true for all of the process during a downturn, take one step back, take one deep breath, really think things through and involve the people that are going to be affected. And the middle managers are the ones that are going to be affected because it's going to cut into their reality. And if you don't ask them and you just decide which ones to fire, then you pose them then you leave them with short-term problems that they need to fix really, really quickly because you don't know which additional workload has that person maybe taken over. Is this person that you thinking about firing maybe the social and emotional anchor of this team? So are you potentially ripping apart the entire team just by taking this one person out? Are you firing the most expensive one, but also maybe because you might save more money, but at the same time, this is the person that delivers 60% more performance than anybody else? You don't necessarily know. And the middle managers know, they know all of that. And they also get the time, on top of all of that, they get the time to process the changes to their team, and they get to make contingency plans on how they're going to run the team from now on and how they're going to redistribute the remaining workload. And if you don't do that, then they have to do this ad hoc in the moment without having the opportunity to plan for it, while being the shock absorber for the pain and the fear and the anxiety that happens in the team. And that is a straightforward line to middle management burnout, because you're overwhelming them with too many responsibilities at once. Oh,
And you don't want that because they don't want, you don't want that because they are your champions on the floor, right?
Yeah. And also I've seen managers sacrificing themselves. They were involved in these kind of decision talks, and they were like, honestly, I've been thinking about leaving the company for quite a while now myself. So why don't you take me out and therefore keep everyone on my team, because they are doing an amazing job and you actually need them to continue doing an amazing job. So let me just take my head here. I've seen people showing up in incredible ways. And by the way, that is also something that the middle managers know, right? So when you're planning who you're taking out, they might know about people who are thinking about leaving the company anyway, which will then cost much less harm to the team dynamics after. Yeah. So this is my most ardent plea, and I think I've become very passionate here on the show. Do involve your middle managers, just like you said, Lars. They know what's going on. They know what's happening. They know what's needed. So bring them in. Don't jump the step. Do yourself a favor, honestly.
And we like here on the show, Paulina, like I think on almost all episodes we kind of bring in our like personal experience or stories we heard, or maybe experience you have with the Culture Code Foundation and some of your clients. So please share some, and I would imagine, because we have experienced a downturn together in a company, right? So please share something that our listeners can listen to and learn from.
Yeah. So I've experienced multiple downturns, both in person and also as a consultant for other companies. But And the downturns that I've experienced were all about 20 to 30% of the workforce that had to be let go. And it really, really surprised me how quickly even the smartest leaders regress under pressure. Obviously, I've also seen the opposite. But I've also seen people who preached empowerment suddenly demanding daily or hourly reporting. People who preached participatory decision making suddenly completely reined that in and forbade their teams to take any decisions whatsoever because they wanted to control every single decision because they were so afraid that a bad or wrong decision might fall back on them and kill their own job. And the crazy thing is, the things that actually matter later on when the downturn is over are the moments where the leaders choose dignity, where they choose to protect their team. Employees don't remember numbers. They don't remember necessarily, or they don't remember every number at least. They don't necessarily remember what the C-level preached to them, but they do remember how they were treated. And that also includes, because that's another thing that I see a lot, that you let go of 20% of the people or 30% of the people, and then everybody pretends like they were never there. So it's like this, and you see this especially in companies that preach that we are all one big family BS, right? And then you leave, and it's like you've never been here. It never even mattered that you were there. And that sends such an important signal to everyone who's still there, which clearly signifies, okay, I can be here today, and they might even find nice words when I leave, but at the end of the day, nobody talks about me ever again after day 2. And that's, not helping engagement, not helping loyalty or anything.
Not at all. And if let's say we are in a company, like we are experiencing a downturn, or we are in the middle of a downturn, or maybe actually on the verge of like turning it around, like how would you kind of tackle like prevention and repair?
So this is probably true for not just downturn situation, but generally when you feel that culture is cracking, which can have other reasons, right? Not just culture doesn't always just crack under economic downturn. And my advice, what to do immediately, is coming back to what I mentioned at the beginning, right? First of all, name reality. Then secondly, invite questions publicly. That brings me to town hall Q&As, with one huge advice. If you don't have an answer, say so. Don't give any marketing speech, polished toxic positivity, we've been down that road, kind of answer. If people ask you, will we have to let go of people, say that is a possibility. We don't want to do this, but I cannot tell you at this point that this is not going to happen, point blank. Or you can say, I don't know yet. I simply don't know yet. Here's what I know, and this part I do not know. Thirdly, definitely stop blame narratives. We spoke about this last week, that there can be rumors or actually narratives that are being spread by the board or the C-level that blame certain people or groups of people as reasons for the downturn. That doesn't help anyone. again, own that this is the situation and that you as managers are ultimately responsible for it. Ideally, actually even apologize for not handling this better, and then introduce or reintroduce structured feedback on the process, including asking your team, what do you need more of? What do you need less of in this situation? I'm also a huge fan, and I think I've mentioned that before, about the appreciative inquiry, especially in crisis, to ask what's still working, where are we strong despite of this, how can we influence the situation for ourselves, just to give people more agency. And then when it comes to repair is always possible, even in the worst of situations. And even if you effed up in the prevention part of it, right, you can always go down the repair road. In my perspective, that only works with radical candor and humility, especially from C-level. I mean, we've seen it in Germany just now, right? The big car companies have laid off hundreds and thousands of people because the economy was so bad and the financial situation of the company was so bad, or they cut the salaries and the bonus structure for their people, for their employees. And then they saw, our bottom line is bigger than ever before. So let's distribute this amazing amount of monies, and we're talking millions, to our stock market people and to our board members for doing such an incredible job. And as a worker, you must be standing there and like, are you kidding me? Are you already? They are making so much more money than any worker on the floor, right? And now they cut the bonuses for the workers and paid themselves premiums higher than ever before in the same effing year. This is not humility. This is laughing in people's face. So please don't do that. Do say things like, we really didn't handle this or this aspect of this situation well. And again, you might even want to apologize for that. I think an apology goes a long way, as long as you then actually not repeat this thing in the future. And leaders that are actually focused on looking inwards, they can ask themselves in the moment even, am I making decisions from data or am I making them from fear? The pressure alone doesn't destroy culture. Actually, pressure can reveal the culture that is actually there. And the real danger in a downturn, and I think I've shown this by mentioning all this, the data and research, the real danger isn't the revenue decline. The real danger is sacrificing the very people and the very trust that you will need to rebuild when the market turns or the situation.
Personally, I've like, back to the story. It's all about like the big car manufacturers.
Yeah.
Personally, I've never understood why company just by default don't like kind of include everybody in any like turnover they have. Like if they're making a profit or in a profit they have. So if you have a profit, why don't you say like X amount of percentages goes to the workers on the floor? I've never understood that. And not saying, again, like I have my own company, we are 3 partners, so that actually makes sense. So, because we have to divide evenly, right? I don't know if we're going to do it in our company when we start hiring, because I don't know what the 2 others think about that. But it was up to me. I would say like, again, X amount of percentages of the profit we make should go to the people that actually makes the profit to me.
It's so funny that you just mentioned it, because just this week, Eric and I actually wrote this down into our culture deck, that as soon as we're going to start hiring, we are going to do it. We are going to
Yes.
distribute profits to the people, because
Yeah,
it's just the right thing to do. Honestly, it is
but
the right thing to do.
Paulina,
They
again,
are the
like,
ones. They are the ones that are. Without them, you have nothing. You have jack.
yeah,
So
but one thing is that it's the right thing to do.
yeah.
But let's say I'm a little bit greedy as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I would also say, like, for me, it's logical that giving money or giving part of the profit to the workers, that will make them work harder, that will make them more loyal, that will make them let's say that they're sitting at a dinner party, right? And you're hiring people, and then they will sit and say, like, hey, is there anybody who wants to come and work for this company? Because I would love, and we only want the best people, and all the best people wants to come and work for you because you share your profit. And then
And
everybody would think, if I go here, if I work hard, if I'm good at my job, we will make more money and I'll get part of the profit. So for me, it's like, it's not a win-win situation. It's a win-win-win-win-win-win situation.
it's a win-win-win circle, right? And you are
Yes.
100% right. So you're reducing turnover costs, you're reducing rehiring costs, because if people A, don't leave, and B, recommend other people from their circle of friends and family, then you don't have to pay headhunters or ads or whatever. You can just bring them in super easily and cost efficiently. You are reducing retraining costs. You are reducing the cost of lost knowledge. You see higher productivity. You see lower levels of sick days. You see all of that. And I've just done a calculation for one of my customers. If they manage to get their people more engaged, they can actually let me take a step back. More engaged people are sick significantly less than less engaged people. And if this company, this one customer of mine, if they reduce their current amount of sick days to the average amount of sick days that companies with highly engaged employees see, they are going to save 1.2 million euros a year just by getting people more engaged. So
Yeah.
why not distribute this 1.2 million to the workforce as a bonus? Because let's face it, none of the companies that are actually turning a profit, none of them, no one of their C-level board members whatsoever needs even more money down their pocket. None of them
No,
needs it.
but
But the
again,
people,
Paulina, if we get back to the greedy part again, let's say we have somebody who's extremely greedy sitting at the board, right? And they don't need the money in any way. I would say still
they want
no,
it.
but I will still say it makes perfect sense, because if let's say you give, let's just say like a high number, you give away 50% of the profit to the workforce, right? Which I would imagine is a high number in companies that do this, 50%. Then I would say, like, you're making a profit of 1 million, but you don't give anything away. I would say if you start giving away half to the employee, I would bet that you'll easily go to 2 or 3 or 4 million in profit the next year. That means you'll actually make more money. So
Yes.
even if you're greedy, it still makes sense to do it that way.
Yeah,
Right?
you're right. And it's I'm always fascinated how few managers are thinking long term and on this kind of this full cost kind of situation. But that's why we're here, trying to educate, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
And
obviously, yes, we're also blaming a little bit, but
I will get back to you as soon as we start hiring what our decision is going to be. Because
yeah,
again, we are 3 partners and we have an equal vote, all of us. So if they don't like it, then
you can start.
maybe I'll pay out of my own pocket then.
You can go ahead and share this episode with them first of all.
Yeah, maybe, or even better, we're going to hire the Culture Code Foundation.
Oh, yes, please.
Yes. Okay, Paulina, we are coming to the end of this second episode. Again, to everybody who's listening, actually, this is the end of the episode, so that doesn't make much sense to pause now and go back. But you should listen to episode 44, which is the first part of this podcast here. For me, Paulina, the biggest takeaway from, I would say, both episodes is that if your culture only works when money flows, it wasn't culture. It was comfort, right?
Yeah.
And in our opinion, boards should ask CEOs, what cultural depth are we creating with this decision? Because cultural debt compounds faster than financial debt, right?
I couldn't agree more. Unfortunately, this is not something that we see a lot, right? Because culture is still seen as a soft topic, and this is also why we're doing this podcast, because we're trying to show that culture is not a soft topic. It's actually it can be competitive advantage. It actually can be something that drives revenue, that drives profits, that drives bottom line, and it can be all of that while doing good things for the people that work for you as well, right? So they don't have to contradict itself. Doing things right and doing things effectively, efficiently, and having both company and people thrive are actually compounding effects instead of contradicting things. And I really, really hope that if just one entrepreneur listens to this podcast, one CEO listens to this podcast and starts to think about culture as something else than a soft factor, then we would have achieved something great here already, I think.
I couldn't agree more. As always, before we let our listeners go for today, please enlighten them where they can find you, where they can find me. How can they get in contact with the Culture Code Foundation if they want to work more with the culture and so on, please?
Yes. So first of all, you can find Lars and myself both on Instagram and on LinkedIn. And we would love also to hear your real life stories about your cultural experiences in your workplace. So please feel free to DM us and just reach out and either tell us your story so that we can re-narrate it, or come on the show and be our live guest and tell your story live. And if you're interested in working with the Culture Code Foundation, you can find us at culturecodefoundation.com or also on LinkedIn. And we will actually put all of those social media handles in the show notes, so you don't need to write anything down. And yeah, maybe let me leave today's episode with one last appeal to all of you. If you're in the middle of a downturn, and I know that this is happening to a lot of companies at the moment, and if you're a C-level or a manager or a board, don't just protect your cash in this situation. Make sure to also protect your trust, because that is going to be your recovery engine.
Wise words from a wise lady. Thank you very much, Paulina. Okay, all our listeners, thank you very much for tuning in to Culture from Hell, and we will see you next week.